The first thing you need to know about Devil Survivor is that it is effectively abandonware. You can't buy it digitally legally. So if you want to play the game, your options are emulation or finding a physical copy, which are kind of sparse. But Atlas has re-released games before, so don't worry. Maybe years down the line, after they're done with that new Persona 4 remake, they'll remake another Devil Survivor game. Or maybe they'll just make Devil Survivor 3. I think that's pretty unlikely, but hey, maybe. Let's be optimistic. Maybe now that Atlas is done with the third Persona 3 remaster and the fourth Persona 5 spin-off, and is almost done with the second Persona 4 remake, they'll make it possible to legally purchase Devil Survivor by making a second full-price remaster with a tiny amount of additional content they'll charge full price for. Oh, what a company. It is such a privilege to be a fan of this company. Can't afford to fix my car, but oh yes, dude! I get to buy Persona 3 for the fourth time at full price, yes! But hey, the games might be worth it. So why am I comparing Persona and Devil Survivor? Well, back in 1987, Digital Devil Story Megami Tensei released, which later became the Shin Megami Tensei series, which branched off into a whole lot of other bull. But the only ones we care about here are the Persona series, which started in 1996, and the Devil Survivor series, which started in 2009. Now, S&T games are all over the place, but generally speaking, they share the same combat systems, general structure, what with the Chaos Law neutral, and demon designs. If you're a Persona-only guy, you'll know them as Personas, but Jack Frost is Jack Frost, it doesn't matter what you call it. And before anyone calls me a hater, I beat Persona 3 twice, I beat Persona 4 twice, and I've technically beat Persona 5 once, but for my first playthrough I got 90% of the way through, so that counts.
I always felt lonely because I had no friends in real life. But Persona 4 has finally allowed me to live in a world of my own kawaii Japanese high school and reach out to the truth. I'd also like to state that she is objectively the best girl.
Alright, I'm going to be talking about both of these games, Devil Survivor 1, Overclocked, and Devil Survivor 2, Record Breaker, simultaneously, because at their core, they're the same game. They're both games where it's just like recognizable modern life, and then suddenly demons everywhere, and the world is doomed, and you and your buddies need to fight demons to survive. In the first game, you summon demons using a Nintendo DS. Unfortunately, they changed it in the second game, and you just use a flip phone. They shouldn't have changed that, it was pretty charming. Where they differ is that the first game is about like a tournament to become king of the underworld that of course you get to participate in. And the second game is more, I'm just gonna say it, it's Evangelion inspired, Evangelion, however you say it. Where there's these somewhat silly, somewhat cool looking space aliens. Like the first one you see looks like a porous ice cream cone. One of them is just a big wheel, like a crystal wheel. They're just very out there designs where it's not biological and it's not cybernetic. It's just sort of, it's all over the place really, it's weird stuff. And you can just apply what I say to both games unless I specify. And that's fine because fortunately this is one of those series where the second game is just an improved version of the first game. Like the first game was good, right? But it was the rough draft. And by the end of development, the dev team saw all the places where they could have done better. And then they just quickly made a second game where they did better. And they just improved it in basically every aspect. No spoilers, I'm not going to get into anything past the halfway point of either game.
Tyrone, you are but casual scum. Why don't you play a real Shin Megami Tensei game like Nocturne or Strange Journey?
Alright. The gameplay of the Devil Survivor games is pretty complex, and that's what I like about it. The main appeal of Devil Survivor relative to the other S&T games, I think, is the gameplay. Once again, using Persona as an example, you have demon fusion and you have traditional turn-based combat. But in the Devil Survivor series, there really is a multi-pronged balance you need to strike to get anywhere. In the short term, you just need to kill the enemies, right, to beat the mission? But if you do that, you're not building for the long term. I'll start with the outermost layer and then go inwards. First, you have time management, which doesn't seem like a huge deal at first, but In my playthrough of the second game, I got one of the playable characters killed because I didn't think the time management aspect was a big deal. But when they tell you that a character is in danger, it means don't do any of the social stuff, any of the side content. Save the character immediately. So to that white-haired little guy at the beginning of Devil Survivor 2, sorry.
But Keita ended up dead. Tear. I suppose you did everything you could.
I couldn't tell you if he's a good character or not. I wouldn't know. So the way this works is you always have access to free battles to stop you from getting soft-locked. But unless you actually get soft-locked, I really would not recommend using these because the game's balance is built around you never using these free battles. If you want to have fun, don't use them unless you absolutely need to. So time management is basically for choosing which characters you want to focus on and get close to. In the second game, they have like social links which have benefits, but in the first game, it's mostly just flavor, outside of choosing which route you want and keeping your companions alive by not messing up and ignoring them. Like when the game tells you that at 11 o'clock someone's gonna die, you probably should visit them at 11 o'clock at that point, but beyond that, it's mostly flavor. Then there's the usual demon fusion aspect that these games have. Persona has it as well. Demons and personas are the same thing. They even have the same models and character design. It's just sort of an aesthetic difference and a lore difference, of course. They've really taken all the tedium out of fusion, where you can just look at a list of which demons you need to fuse the one you want. In older games, you'd have to just kind of guess or look up a guide online, which is horrible. So I'm glad they did this. You can just sort of run through the algorithm to get what you want. The fused demon inherits the traits of the two demons that did the fusion dance to make them. So if you have two demons with a high magic stat, the new demon will also inherit some of that magic stat. If you have good abilities, they'll inherit those abilities, that sort of thing. And beyond that, as a Devil Survivor original, as far as I know, there's the auction system. And it works differently in both games, but neither of them really feel like an auction. Like you can just buy demons outright, but you should never ever do that because it's always cheaper to engage in the auction system. In the first game, I didn't look into the NPC behavior behind it, but really what you're trying to do, you're trying to get the NPCs to back out and raise a white flag before time even runs out. So it doesn't feel like an auction. You're just kind of jumping up 100 points, then 200 points, then 300 points. Trying to just keep it as low as you can without reaching the buy price. Because if you wait for time to run out, you're just kind of placing a bet, and whoever has the highest bet wins the demon. There's a funny circumstance when you can just bet more money than you have, then you have to default on the purchase, and you lose a bunch of auction points, which kind of tanks your ability to buy more demons, I think. I wouldn't know. I did that one time and I went from like 26 points to 0, and I reloaded a save because I didn't want to deal with that. Auctions in the second game are different, but still not an auction for whatever reason. The way it works is you get a prediction for how much money the NPCs are going to bet, and then you want to place a higher bet. It's like the default state of the first game, but just they skipped the opening round, I suppose. So you'll get a group of like, this guy's betting 710, this lady's betting 690, this guy's betting 750, and it's like, all right, I'll just bet 830, so I have a nice little safe buffer. And you will almost win every time doing that. So I don't really like this auction system. Really is half-baked. It kind of sucks. Well, in the second game at least, there's like there's special ones where you can get special demons by participating in enough auctions, and you'll just sort of randomly unlock special deals and special opportunities, which I guess is nice. But yeah, this really isn't my favorite aspect of these games. I'm glad it's there. It's something. It's better than just buying them outright, but you know, they could have made it just like a real auction. Or you could choose a stopping point. One of the NPCs could run up a number too high, and then they'd default, and you'd get the opportunity to buy at the price you set, something like that. Just feels underbaked, really. But to buy demons from the registry or from the auction, you need Maka. That's the currency in these games, and a lot of SMT games, really. And this is where I think it gets kind of fun, because there's a lot of interplay here. So then you get into actual battles, And the way this works is there's a Final Fantasy Tactics style strategy layer where you're moving around on a grid-based map. And every playable character, it's just them and a team of 2 other demons, so teams of 3 really. You can go lower, but there's no circumstance where you should. And demons have race-specific abilities like Devil Speed, where it lets you move 7 spaces on the strategy layer map. Then there's Bind, which slows people down. There's stuff like Ghost Touch, which slows people down and restricts their attack range to 1, so they can never outrange you. So it's nice that outside of your demon's ability in combat, you really do need to plan around which racial abilities your demons have. Because in Devil Survivor, there's a lot of objectives that are not just kill the enemy and survive. There's escort missions, there's escape missions, there's reach this point before the enemy does. There's incapacitate without killing. There's all sorts of stuff, so you really can't plan around just having like the highest attack number and then just powering through everything. There are certain maps where if you don't have Devil Speed or Bind, you just kind of lose outright. Like in the first game, there's this vampire, I think he's called Karlach, something like that. And you can't kill him, because if you kill him, he resurrects stronger at a later date, and you sort of get a bad end, I think, for one of the characters. So what you need to do is you need to catch up to him, which is hard because he gets a head start, and then you need to bind him so he slows down, and then you need to injure him without killing him so one of your allies can finish him off, which will properly kill him. If you just go all in on attack power and what's optimal for the turn-based combat, you just can't win that mission. So there's a lot of stuff like that I like. Then of course there is the traditional turn-based combat, but in this game they're called skirmishes. If you've played any JRPG, you know what this is. The difference is you only get 1 round per skirmish. So you and your demons each get 1 attack per skirmish, and the enemy demons also get 1 attack per skirmish, but you can also get an extra turn by targeting the enemy's weakness, or getting a critical, or blocking enemy's elemental attack by being able to nullify or reflect it. But beyond that, it really is traditional S&T style turn-based combat. What I do like, for the most part, is that you get Maka by doing skirmishes, but there's a modifier on how you play that acts as a multiplier for how much Maka you actually get out of these encounters. So if you target the enemy's weaknesses, you get I think it's a 5% bonus per weakness targeted. And if you kill all 3 enemies in 1 turn, you get just a flat out 30% bonus in how much Maka you get from killing these guys. Stuff like that. But then if one of your demons dies, it's like a negative modifier, which caps out at 0, so it doesn't go into the negatives or anything, it just undoes any good work you do. So sometimes this sucks, where you want to use Force Stance, because 2 of the enemies are weak to Force, but 1 nullifies it. And it's like, alright, that's a good play from a skirmish standpoint, but it's going to mess up your ability to get bonus Maka. Because once they block that, it sort of undoes targeting the weakness and you're stuck at the flat 0. So I do like this. It kind of changes how you play in the turn-based aspect of the game to maximize how much money you get, so you can buy better demons in the auction. So beyond using Maka to buy demons, there's actually a second parallel economy that you have to engage in. You see, the human characters don't have any abilities innately. You need to acquire these by using this thing called skill cracks. Basically, if a character has the prerequisite stats to use an ability, before a level begins, they can choose an enemy and select one of their abilities, and if that character kills that enemy, they get to keep that ability. And it's not just for them, you can switch around abilities between the whole roster. So if you get Mazio using Yuzu, you can just take that Mazio and give it to a different character in between missions. This creates an interesting little scenario where you have to make suboptimal plays on the level itself to kill certain enemies with certain characters. And you can plan ahead. Let's say you need to kill an enemy that's weak to fire with Yuzu. Of course you're going to give Yuzu a demon with fire on it to make killing that enemy even easier. It just adds another layer you need to account for when you're playing the game. This is fun for a couple reasons, because it's really unintuitive for each character to get 1 kill. You can't really just steamroll through the game with 1 super strong character, otherwise you're only getting 1 ability per map. And sometimes, rarely, there are opportunities where there's an enemy you're not supposed to be able to kill, but you can still target them with this break thing. And if you do kill them on the map, you get like a late game ability in the early game, which is always tight. Like in the second game, there's this cage guy who has like 3 amazing abilities that you want to get. And you can kill him, you just gotta be clever about it. Like he has shield all, he has Zeodyne at a point where you don't even have Mazio. And he has one more I don't remember. Hopefully I have footage so I can put it on screen. With the combination of auctions, demon fusions that are in most of these games, the strategy layer, the economic metagame with skill cracks and Maka bonuses, as well as the traditional turn-based skirmishes, there's a lot of interplay here that makes Devil Survivor a lot more complex than most SMT games. These aren't the hardest games in the SMT Mega Series, it's just, it's probably the most complex. So yeah, it's good stuff. Any one of these systems on their own are not great, but the interplay between them is what makes it great.
Can you even take on the armies of YHVH and fight in the name of chaos?
When it comes to music, it's just sort of something I gotta get out of the way, rip the band-aid off so to speak. Atlas has a really high bar for their music, even when it's not Shoji Meguro. They do great work. Etrian Odyssey is amazing. Trauma Center is amazing. Persona is of course amazing. But Devil Survivor is lackluster, I'm sorry to say. I know some people are fond of the first game's guitars, but it's just impossible to find a high quality version of any Devil Survivor 1 tracks, and only one of them I thought was really standout. So I'll just play that real quick, and then go back to using some other good Atlas music for this video. The Devil Survivor 2 soundtrack, you can find high quality versions of these tracks, but they're generally higher quality than the first game's music, but they're also more generic, and none of them really stood out to me. So once again, it's not bad, it's just like, by Atlas standards, it's subpar, unfortunately.
Shin Megami Tensei and Persona 1-2 are unappealing to me, as they are too hardcore with their
When it comes to
RPG
character
dungeon
work,
crawling.
there really aren't any standout characters in the first game in my opinion. They more just seemed like a collection of archetypes, like Atsuro is just a nerd. Like that's all there really is to him, he's as nerdy as possible. He gets called a nerd, everyone treats him like a nerd, he talks about computer terminology and client-to-host relationship and in relations to the magic system like that. Yuzu is just a well-meaning, like Giga Stacy. She likes fashion, she likes music, and she wants everyone to be happy. Not much to say there. And it goes on like that. Kaido is a thug with a soft spot. He looks like a thug, he acts like a thug, but he has a soft spot for Mari. They're all just archetypes, so I don't really care about any of their characters individually, and I played the game with English voice acting. The voice acting ranges from bad to acceptable. There are some standouts like Midori, who I think did kind of a horrible job. Maybe it was horrible direction, I'm not talking here. I just didn't like... I just thought the voice acting for Midori was bad. I don't know what to say, I can't sugarcoat it.
Go back to the way you used to be! People said really mean things to me too. Some of them even tried to kill me. Garg! That was justice? Is that how far you have to go to really be just?
The only exception really in the Devil Survivor 1 cast is Keisuke, who is interesting because before you meet him, Atsuro talks about him like he's a hero. Like he stands up for people and he always does what's right, and then you meet him and his character design is like a thin guy wearing 2 colored shirts, and he looks depressed, and he acts depressed too. And that immediately sparked my curiosity, and as the game progresses you realize that he was very idealistic as a kid when Atsuro knew him, but he's been gradually beaten down by the world, and this whole apocalyptic scenario is his breaking point when he sees that instead of people banding together, they're just taking advantage of one another with the Devil Tamer system. So as a result, he goes off the deep end and he goes all in on justice. He cares more about justice than anything. He's beyond morality, he's beyond decency, he doesn't care about empathy, he just wants absolute justice. And he goes on this based monologue.
I'd never presume to condemn people by my own standards. That's just prejudice, which is why Yama, the judge of hell, judges them in my place. Isn't that much more fair than humans judging one another? Humans' hearts are weak. I know there are times when they bend to the temptation of evil. But Midori, it's the ability to bear temptation that makes us human. Those who give in and choose to cause others pain, they're no longer human. Gods and demons have existed since ancient times as a check on people's weak hearts. Haven't we talked enough about those scum?
So yeah, I'm not too fond of the characters themselves. I'm not too fond of the voice acting. But Suzuhito Yasuda, sorry if I said that wrong. Maybe it's Yasuda Suzuhito, I wouldn't know. I really, really like his art. Like, he gives all of his characters are very lanky. They have sharp eyes. The only way I can really describe them is elf-like. Even when they're not supposed to be elves, they have sharp ears and sharp eyes, and they're thin. And then in the second game, the characters are universally better. The voice work is universally better, and I like the character art even more than the first game. It's a bit of an odd choice, and I don't know why they did it, but I like it. All of the character portraits have this soft blue lighting from behind, so they all have these soft blue accents. It's just an odd little stylistic choice that I haven't seen in any other game. And as you play the game, you see the character art, and sure, everyone has maintained, what's this guy's name? Everyone has maintained Suzuhiro Yasuda's elf-like features, but the women this time around have elf-like features and also huge tits. That's right. Pretty much every lady in the second game, with one exception, has huge tits, and they're not wearing a ton of clothing. And I'm not complaining. It's just, if I'm gonna talk about the game, I've got to mention this. It's like the character work in the second game is better than the first game, and it also happens to be undeniably hornier. Is there a correlation there? Not for me, but it's worth noting. As for the voice work, I think generally speaking, everyone in the second game does a better job. But Io's voice actress, it's clear to me she's trying to make her character sound as innocent as possible, so she's doing a breathy falsetto, like a stereotypical Disney princess, or like Ariana Grande's character from Wicked, the movie. But it doesn't really work for me, because to me it just feels like she's moaning in my ear the whole time, as like an ASMR quality.
That's right. If not, maybe we could head to a park or shelter. That sounds about right. I've never had to walk all the way home before. So there's 5 more to go. Oh, and hey, thanks for keeping me company.
Like, once again, I'm not trying to be horny on my YouTube channel, but it's just very distracting when I feel like this character is moaning in my ear the whole time. This doesn't make her sound innocent to me, it makes it sound like she's trying to seduce me. Doesn't she see my name? This is a game with Fumi in it, why is she even bothering to try? Also, one more character voice I like in Devil Survivor 2. Hard to say if she even counts as a character, but if you pick female Tiko, it's voiced by Hifumi's voice actor from Persona 5. But she's extremely energetic, and she's like a bimbo with a Valley Girl accent.
You think those guys can really handle it? Boo! Anyways, then you went to Osaka and saw Keita's death video. It was scary. Yay! Or not yay. I guess it depends on how you feel. BT Dubs, have you ever seen anything as messed up as the city of Osaka? Jeez, not good. Van Yami told you a bunch of stuff about the world being in huge trouble, blah blah blah. Gigantic earthquake. Hey, how's that feel, huh? Is it epic to have cool demon henchmen all the time? I bet it's epic.
I can't even be coy about this, I just love the performance. And the writing in this one actually is pretty funny.
I played Persona 4 for the visual novel elements.
Now once again, don't get mad at me, but one way the Persona series is inferior to most other SMT games is the branching structure. You see, in Persona, you usually have a normal end, a true end, which has minor differences, and a bad end, which is a premature ending, where you just make the wrong option, and you get a little cutscene, and then you just load right back in to get one of the good or the true end. But you see, in most SMT games, it actually has a law-neutral chaos system, where at some point, maybe 2/3, maybe 3/4 of the way through the game, it branches off into different routes where you get to choose the radically different ending. This usually involves you splitting the party, right? So in Persona, your buddies are your buddies all the way through. But in SMT, the characters actually have significant ideological differences where they have very different ideas of how to solve the same problem. So usually, one character will go off and choose a lawful option, which is like humans have less control, but they're safer. They have a nice little box with all the edges rounded off. There's a chaos option where it's very libertarian. There are no control mechanisms, so it's just survival of the fittest and the strongest rules, basically. Then there's neutral, which is typically something in the middle between those two, or maintaining the status quo. And of course, because I'm bringing this up, Devil Survivor has these as well. You encounter a lot of characters throughout these two games, and then maybe halfway through the games, the common route splits into multiple routes, where you choose an ideological path, and then you have a smaller party based on who agrees with you, and you have to fight the other parties to achieve your ideological vision. So if you're like a Chaos Chad, you're probably gonna have to beat up your law buddies, which I always like. As far as tropes go, I do like JRPG parties turning on each other. It's always fascinating to see. Like, there's no hate there, but they're all fighting for their own version of an ideal world. It's the sort of thing you just can't get in a mainstream series, I suppose. Like, Persona doesn't do that at all. All of your buddies agree on everything that's important, and you're all together to the end. Which I guess is nice from a feel-good standpoint, I just don't think it's interesting from a writing one. And these are actually really significant differences. It's not like Mass Effect's blue, green, red ending. And Devil Survivor, it's like, okay, you can just run away and ignore these issues. You can become the king of hell and try to lead everything personally. Or you can just... basically. I think there's even a couple others. In Devil Survivor 2, it's like those options are even crazier, with more out there cosmological implications. It's cool. It's cool.
I'll be here fighting angels in the name of chaos while you cling to cheat.
Now, it is a bummer that if you want to play these games, your best bet is emulation, but it's not all bad. You see, being on the Nintendo DS and later 3DS meant these games had a lot of limitations. The graphical fidelity is not particularly high, the audio fidelity is not particularly high, and unfortunately these games can be pretty slow. But emulation has fixed all of these. What I like to do when I'm playing is I like to turn the emulation speed right up to 200%, that's double. And that's just right. There are graphical patches for Devil Survivor 1 and 2 that sort of shave off all of the harsh edges and make everything higher fidelity and smoother. Now I'm kind of on the fence about whether or not I like these, because it does cause some blurriness. There are some harsh lines that are meant to be there that get sort of smeared, so it's to your taste. I don't use it personally, but I can see why people would. So if you like a smoother look, then yeah, definitely get a patch when you're playing this. And the soundtrack is just... the soundtrack is just butchered by the crunchiness of the DS, frankly. So if you're a fan of that, maybe get a high fidelity patch for that as well. But audio really isn't this game's forte. Oh, and the voice acting. Unfortunately, the game itself has very few options when it comes to anything, really. Do you want to adjust the sound? Well, you can't. Do you want to play the Japanese dub instead of the English? Well, you can't. Do you want to speed up the game so you don't have to go through all of the same dialogue and the same slow animations because you just lost a level? Well, you can't. But emulation fixes all of these and more, so
I bet you dream of holding Chi's hand instead of claiming the world in Lucifer's own glory. Do you even dungeon crawling?
So there it is. That's the Devil Survivor review, retrospective, glazing, whatever you'd like to call this. It seems unlikely, but hopefully this series does get a third entry at some point, because I feel like with just a little bit of polish, it could be like huge for Atlas. I really mean it. It has all the elements it needs to succeed. The issue is it was stuck on the Nintendo DS for the original 2 games, and then the re-releases were stuck on the Nintendo 3DS. It's just like, if this was just on a console people actually played, it would sell well, and then you could just make more of them. Because it's just such a clean, well put together series. But I don't know, I'm not optimistic. The internal team at Atlas that developed this has been dismantled, and all the employees have been scattered to different teams within the company. And of course, some of them have moved on to other companies. So it really is just a shame. I think it's one of the best things they've ever made, and it's barely got any love. Hopefully this changed that for at least a few people. I think I'd recommend it to almost anyone. And that's that. Give it a shot. Please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, etc. Engagement farming, blah blah blah. Next up on the channel, I think I'm going to review Hollow Knight Silk Song. Because I 100%'d the first game, I'm a pretty big fan of it. And if you're interested in Atlas in particular, I think I have a lot to say about Catherine, so I'm going to talk about Catherine at some point. I'm just still deciding if I'm going to talk about the original game or Full Body. But yeah, that game's special for a completely different set of reasons. And I haven't heard people talk about it the way I want to talk about it, so when that comes out, consider giving it a look. Could be tomorrow, could be next year, who knows. Thank you for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing.